Wow, oh my god, he took it.
And not much time.
What a guy. What a guy, and look at his expression, it's just very cool. That clip is absolutely priceless, and I'm going to bring you the full reaction in just a moment. But we're not waffling right now, we're diving straight into this game because the unthinkable just happened. Let's check this one out. It's round 2 of the Qatar Masters. Magnus Carlsen with black, and his opponent here is a young man by the name of Alisher Suleymenov. He is rated 2509. Let's have a look at this one. So we get d4 on the board, knight f6, c4, e6 from Magnus, and after knight f3, we don't see d5 going back into a queen's gambit declined, but b6, the queen's Indian defense. Less common, you don't fight for the central space. Now we see a3, taking away b4, often the bishop wants to check. The knight's coming to c3 in a minute. Now we see bishop a6 and Magnus does a weird looking dance. We see queen c2 to defend that pawn. The bishop drops back. Why would black waste time like this? Because this is known opening theory. Well, after knight c3, pawn c5, this is the point. Because this pawn is attacked and now white cannot go pawn d5, which would be possible if the queen stood on d1. If you do it now, everything gets liquidated, black wins a pawn. So instead, pawn e4 played, white taking the center. Magnus takes here, the knight recaptures, bishop c5 hits that unprotected knight, it drops back to f3 and now knight c6. But after pawn b4, we can see why this opening is risky for black. White already has 3 pawns in the centre to black's none, and now this bishop has to retreat soon. Now the main line here actually goes with knight d4. You hit the queen, you hit the knight. By the way, the board's gone light grey, so if you're new here, welcome to the channel. And in this view, you can see when we're into analysis mode. Now when the queen moves, the knight drops with check. Pawn recaptures is actually best. Now the bishop retreats, but at least you've exchanged a pair of minor pieces. That always helps the side that has less space, less room to maneuver. But what Magnus does is bishop e7. So he's leaving pieces on the board despite having the lack of space. We see bishop b2, queen b8, really highlighting that lack of space for black. d5 not coming anytime soon. So Magnus adding some influence over these dark squares. Rook d1, keeping an eye on d5. Great move. Castles, bishop e2, d6 from Magnus, castles played, and rook c8. Look at this, Magnus piling up in the corner here. Now if you can unravel, great, but if not, white's coming soon with the steamroller pawns. Now this rook lines up the queen, maybe black wants this, pressure c4, but after rook fe1, Magnus goes quite passive here. He starts with bishop f8, bishop f1, very grandmasterly bishop retreats. This rook now open, and now here it's not easy to play. h6 the top engine move, a kind of waiting one. You can go knight e5, pressure this pawn, and if takes, yes, your pawn structure's ugly, but at least this one's no longer a target. You've opened the bishop. Okay, you're still going to be suffering, but maybe better than the game. What we see in the game is knight e7 from Magnus, knight b5 targets this pawn, and now you might think knight g6 to defend it once again, but that wasn't played. White actually gets quite a big attack after shattering open the king, and then the game goes from there. I won't keep going down the line, but you can pressure this black king long term. These pieces still quite stuck in the corner, the knight hopping to d4 soon. So what we see in the game is knight back to e8 to protect that pawn, but look at this. I mean, Magnus is having like this back rank party, right? All those pieces back there, but it's not ideal on move 17 of the game. So white now plays knight to g5, charging forward with the horse, attacking the king, and those highlighted pawns are weak. We see knight g6 spinning around, trying to defend, opening up some more defense here. But now e5 from white, an absolutely fantastic move. Doesn't look like it should be possible, because what happens if black simply takes that pawn? Well, now you're getting mated in one since the knight leaves this square. So that is impossible. What if this one takes first? Well, now the bishop takes. We've established that the knight can't move, and guess what? Your queen is trapped. Now you wish you never put it on this square, stuck in the box. So what we see instead is d5 from Magnus, trying to keep things closed, but queen b3 calmly played, coming away from this pin down here with the rook. And now this knight is a real pain in the side, so Magnus tries to kick it. He could try h6, but he goes bishop e7, and now this is where we get the first fantastic move of the game, a brilliancy. Can you guess what white played here? So well done if you found the move of knight takes on f7, ripping open the black king, made possible by the fact that these pieces are miles offside. So Magnus recaptures, and it's in this position where we get this reaction from Sagar Shah at Chessbase, just priceless.
Yeah, oh my god, he took it.
And not much time.
What a guy. What a guy. And look at his expression. It's just very cool. भाई क्या ही खेल रहा है? Alisher Suleymenov in the best form of his life, sacking his knight against Magnus Carlsen. This is a dream for any player.
So white to play. Pawn captures on d5 now played, opening more lines to the king. The bishop recaptures, but the second brilliancy incoming. White now picks up and sacrifices the rook on d5. Again ripping open the king, because after queen recaptures with check, you can't retreat to g8. So you have to go back to f8. Now knight d4, and here black is getting killed on these light squares. The king is in all sorts of trouble. You have to cover that check. Knight c7 possible. Magnus goes for knight f4 to do it that way. Hits the queen, of course, but it calmly slides back to f3. The knight's now pinned. It's dropping, so the king sidesteps. The material is recovered. Now we see this move of queen to b7 played, trying to laterally defend that king, but knight f5. All of the white pieces just streaming into the position. Yes, white is an exchange down, but you've got two pawns for it and this raging attack. You can already resign, but Magnus battles on. b5, covers bishop c4 check, but another fantastic move. You know, Suleymenov just playing out of his skin. It's like he's in a dream. He takes on b5. You can't recapture, or knight takes, check, king goes, that's mate. You're not covering the back rank. So instead, we see bishop f8, tucking back, now bishop c4 check, the king sidesteps, and knight h6 was the final move of the game. We see Magnus Carlsen, 5-time world champion, going down in 31 moves, classical chess, to a 25-12 player. Wow, this was the unthinkable. Now, why was resignation here, done by Magnus? Was a threat to take here. If you cover with the queen, well then the attack rages on basically. Knight f7 check. The king walks into the windmill. You can now retreat that bishop. Well, sorry, check first. Obviously rook can take, but the queen recaptures. Check first, king goes. Now you can just tuck the bishop back. Sadistic stuff to finish the game. And what do? Knight c7 maybe to connect some rooks. And white can just slow play it. You've got moves like rook e3 joining the attack. h6 never works. You just come here, and if you take, well, that's going to be mate, or you check and king back, and there's all this kind of devastating stuff. It's mate in 6 from here apparently. Sorry, the king's in check. Oh, you can't even take because it's in double check. I didn't click on every single line, but it's just a devastating attack. Resignation, not premature. What a game by this young man. I hope you enjoyed. Do hit subscribe to never miss a future video and see another epic game of chess. See the video on screen. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you soon.